Not safe for work. Not safe for work. Hot people, hot jobs. Not safe for work.
Hey everyone, welcome to Not Safe for Work. I'm Chloe, your host. I'm the founder of Chlomosexual Presents, one of New York City's most iconic party series. I'm also an entrepreneur, an investor, and all around girl boss. I'm here today with a guest who is an absolute icon in the tattoo space. I'm really excited to talk to them today about, kind of what it's like being a tattoo artist in New York City and maybe inspire some folks today who are interested in that journey. With that, I'm so excited to welcome my guest, Divina. You know her from tattooing at places all around New York City and Brooklyn. Some really fun stuff coming out that I'm excited to talk about today. So without further ado, welcome, Divina.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be on the pod.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for meeting me.
Of course.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. I'm curious, how would you describe your, career, your job title today? If someone asked you, what do you do for a living? What is the one sentence answer that you give?
Definitely tattoo artist.
Tattoo artist? Yeah. And when you, talk about being a tattoo artist, I feel like there's a lot of different realms of like what that means. Like your style, like, the machine, hand poke, like give us a little bit more about kind of specifically what kind of tattoo artist you are.
Well, I specialize in fine line. Definitely more like feminine, delicate. It's always hard for me to put like a label on my work because it's evolving. I'm still trying to figure out what it is, but it definitely focuses on the feminine.
Just for reference for the readers tuning in, I met Divina by getting a tattoo from them. I wanted to get a tattoo for my beautiful angel dog, Moose, who is quite the lover boy. And I wanted something in a very specific style. And my style has evolved to be fine line, but with hard, like filled in coloring. So instead of like shading, think like this lover boy moose tattoo, which is done by Divina. So I went to them to get this tattoo done, and I love it. I'm obsessed with it. That was 7 months ago, and it's healed so gorgeously. And
I can't believe it's 7 months already.
I know, and literally every person, including tattoo artists that see this, are like, that is the crispest, like line work tattoo that I've ever seen, and I totally agree. Like, what is your secret to like duration and healing so gorgeously?
Just caring about it a lot, I guess. I started off with this. That I have to say that is the biggest compliment a tattoo artist can get is when another tattoo artist compliments it because like they know technique. They know if it's like not, done well. So that's amazing to hear. When I first started tattooing, I was in a studio that was a lot of women, a lot of fine line work. And that wasn't something that was always around in tattooing. And I was definitely more attracted to that, I think, than like bolder styles, traditional. It's delicate work. I have a pretty light hand and like, focus on like details. So it just came together really well.
I love that. You do have a delicate hand. I barely felt it the entire session. When you think about kind of like your journey into tattooing, I guess like what was your origin story of becoming a tattoo artist? And is this something you always wanted to do? Like, how did you get into this?
It definitely wasn't something I saw myself doing. But my like introduction into tattooing was I married a tattoo artist. This was a long time ago. He's my ex-husband now, but we got together in 2011. And since then, it's like, I've always been fascinated by tattoos, always wanted tattoos myself. And being married to someone, or like when you're dating, you definitely like absorb each other's like interests, hobbies. And I loved knowing like the behind the scenes, I guess, the technical stuff, what life looks like on that side, I didn't have plans to become a tattoo artist just because when I got into the industry or was around it, like it was definitely like more male dominated. I was still pursuing like photography at the time. It was really like being at that studio, Fleur Noir in Williamsburg, like being around like really strong like female artists who did their own style, was more feminine, like seeing more of that I felt like, okay, like this is a place I would love to learn this. These are like women I would love to learn from.
I love that. So did you start tattooing at Fleur? So for those who don't know Fleur Noir, it's like one of the most iconic studios in New York City. They also have one in LA that I think they just temporarily closed.
Yeah.
But if you've gotten a tattoo at a studio in Williamsburg, if it was a guest, it might have also been a Fleur Noir studio.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a really like insane place to start your tattoo career because like that is such a legendary studio.
High, like very, very talented artists. Like people were like top of their game, I got lucky for sure, I had and I was also managing there. But my ex worked there and was friends with the owner for like a long time. So I feel like, I definitely like had a lot of support from people. I'm very grateful for like how I entered it. Cause I know a lot of people, it's a lot harder. It's not as simple as just like having a connect,
Totally. Well, I mean, it's definitely like well earned, like whether or not you had a connect, like literally like this is my most gorgeous tattoo and like beautifully done. So I'm sure that they saw what I see and what everyone who sees your work sees. When you think about the whole perspective of like it being a male dominated space and like coming in with like a lot of support from women, like do you feel like that shaped your early development as a tattoo artist as well?
I guess, yeah, because it was, women support women. Like we love to hype each other up and not necessarily like, lie to each other. I had like honest people around me who, if they looked at my work, they could be like, oh, this is what you need to do. Like they would help me out in like technical aspects, but also just like the genuine excitement for me to join it, So I feel like getting to start in such a, what's the word? It's just such a like encouraging environment definitely like set the standard for me.
I love that. Girls supporting girls. We love that.
Yes, always.
That's awesome. I mean, when I saw you too, like the tattoo studio you were at was like an all like queer and femme, which was just like, it just felt like such a safe space and just such a good vibe. I know that I told you I had like a weird experience with a tattoo artist that was a man at one point, and it like kind of swore me off to having cis men who aren't at least queer tattooing me for a little while, because it's something like it's a very vulnerable space to be in. And, when you think about kind of getting a tattoo, if you're getting a spine tattoo, like your tits are out on the table,
right.
Like, so it's important to be in kind of a nurturing, environment. So tattooing you didn't intend to do, this is something you fell into. When was this that you started tattooing?
I started my apprenticeship in 2019. So like, that's like that was the first time like me tattooing in skin, like starting on like friends and family. Because before that, I had tattooed my ex like a bunch just to play around. But, like taking it seriously. Yeah. And getting to work in like real skin and practice with family members.
Mm-hmm. What were you doing before tattooing?
Managing. Before that, waitressing.
So if you were to like talk to your childhood self and you were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you think that they would say? And would they be shook that you're a tattoo artist?
No, because she always wanted to be an artist. And like tattooing is what I do as a career, but I create in other mediums as well. That's like where I, support my lifestyle, my livelihood,
Right.
It's not tethered by that. Like I love, I want to take tattooing into other realms. Like, I have a lot of friends who do that. They create art inspired by it, but it doesn't like have to stay as just a tattoo essentially. I love creating in other mediums.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. What other mediums?
So I'm like experimenting with like etching, engraving, definitely painting. I'm right now like painting like bags. I'm really excited about it. Like, leather purses and things like that. Which is a challenge for me because my work, it's black.
Yeah.
It's like black ink. Like, so working in color has been a challenge, but it's also been really fun, just not like letting it free flow. I'm trying to approach painting like that, like just not being so intentional and just letting like the subconscious take over, I guess.
Well, you brought up something that I definitely want to hear more about.
For sure.
You mentioned like working with other artists who have turned their tattoos into other mediums. I'm assuming you're talking about Girl New York.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Girl New York, for people who don't know, is also someone who I found out about at Fleur, but they may have been tattooing before that.
Yeah. She's been tattooing for like almost a decade, I think.
Yeah, like, and they're an icon. If you look them up on Instagram, you'll recognize them.
100%.
If nothing else, from like Ariana Grande's hand tattoos and like many Ariana Grande tattoos. They're an icon. I love their style. Like I've always been obsessed with it, and I noticed that they've started like turning this into also, you know, being able to sell their art, not just, you know, what they're able to tattoo on people's bodies. Yeah. And you mentioned before we came in here that you're doing something with them in their studio.
Yeah,
coming up. Tell me about that. Yeah.
So I'm going to be working with friends who have like their own studios that I've known, actually met at Floor. Mira is one of them, Girl New York, and Jazz Paulino. They're both just very inspiring women who, they're both artists, you know, in the same respect. You know, Mira's work, she has galleries. She like sews, she embroiders, she does like everything. She is an artist through and through. Jazz is the same way. So I feel like I'm transitioning into, like, I'm just in this transitional period in my life right now. And I'm very excited to get to like soak up, just be around these women, you know, be inspired by them and reconnect with them, because it's been so many years since we worked together. We did work together for like a few years when we were in Williamsburg, but then like everyone went their separate ways and we stayed in touch. But it's going to be great to just be like in those environments with them, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm personally excited for this and pumped to check out the studio. And are you bringing like also that art component into this as well? Or are you starting with the tattoos here? Like,
well, at both studios, they're literally both set up as like it almost looks like art stores. You go in, there's like every kind of supply that like you could want. They both do a lot of things that like aren't tattoos. So we have like a lot of fun events from both studios coming up for this summer for sure.
I love it.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
I will definitely be there and checking this out.
Yes, please.
I love it. Okay, so you didn't know that you would be a tattoo artist, but you knew that you would be an artist, or that's something that you always, you know, desired. You're obviously slaying that right now. If you were to say, like, if I asked you right now, let me ask you right now, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, that's the ever changing question. I don't know. I just want to be like doing what I want to do, you know, creating art and I don't know, being happy. You know, I am happy now. I'm very like just growing, evolving, like all the good things. I don't have any like picture I paint in my head, but yeah, just being better like this year than I was last year kind of thing, you know?
I love that. I mean, that's like such an amazing mentality of just like, instead of thinking, I think sometimes when you say like, oh, what am I going to do in 10 years from now working towards something? It's like, I'm not the same person I was a year ago. Yeah. That's impossible to know. So just knowing that you're always iterating and improving on yourself is, I mean, I think a very realistic way of answering that question. Yeah. I love that. When you think of kind of like people that inspire you or like things or, you know, concepts that inspire you that like bring you that kind of joy and excitement to that next thing, like, is there anything or anyone in particular that's like really inspiring you right now from, you know, the current journey that you're on?
I don't know. There's so many there's so many people. I think I'm trying to like inspire myself too. But yeah, no, I'm surrounded by a lot of like inspiring women, like women that are pursuing their own journeys. Like we talked earlier about, you know, your news, you know, switching into,
oh yes.
Yeah. Like leaving, you know, traditional or 9 to 5, or like maybe like something that you weren't super connected to and, you know, following like what makes you happy, like what you really want to do. I'm surrounded by women that do that. So it's like, I don't know. They all inspire me.
And I think like that's obviously so important to surround yourself with people like that inspire you. You know, if you're someone who's thinking about getting into tattooing, I think it can be kind of a daunting thing. Like there's so many like hot people already doing this incredibly hot job of tattooing people. Like you walk into Fleur Noir, you walk into any of these studios, it can be very intimidating to think like, oh, this is something I think would be really cool to do, but I don't know how to approach it. Like what advice would you give to someone who's like thought about it or, you know, wants to get into it, but doesn't know where to start?
You know, it's easy to see it on social media and think that it's something easy to do, you know? Draw. Like if you want to like get an apprenticeship, you will have to shop around to different studios, but they're going to want to see that like you are artistic, especially with drawings, because typically you're going to be, converting those illustrations into tattoos, but they want to see like, style, like ability, things like that. Not that like being a really good illustrator is necessarily means that you can like put ink into the skin, like on a technical level, definitely like follow tattoo artists that like, whose style maybe you want to emulate or whose style you feel connected to, go get tattooed by them, ask questions, or just pay attention. So like there's a lot you can learn. It's harder when you don't know the technical aspect, but you can see in like real time, like what are they doing with the machine? We don't mind chatting. We literally chat the whole session.
Literally.
So like I would say, yeah, definitely like immerse yourself a little bit in the world and then know that it's hard the whole way through. Anytime you're working for yourself, it's going to be, you're handling so many different like aspects of it, booking, designing, drawing, promoting, social media, all this stuff. It's a lot of work. I feel like, you really have to be committed to it. Like it's something that you have to give 100% of yourself to.
What's the hardest part about like, and when you think about it zoomed out from like running a business versus just tattooing, I think like you see, I do this one thing, but that's actually just one small piece of actually the entire business that you're actually running.
Oh, the tattooing?
Yeah.
That's like the very last part. It's not the easiest, but almost, booking, promoting, that kind of stuff is a lot tougher. You have to be your own marketing person, and learning as a tattoo artist. Like, I feel like the goal is to keep growing, keep learning. Like, that's another thing I think I'm really excited. I'm around, I'm going to be around like people that like have a lot more experience than I do. So that has always inspired me. Like when I started at Flora, I felt like I can't be bad at tattooing because everyone here is so good.
That's fair.
So like I want to be like, I want them to respect my work. I want them to see that like this is something that I care a lot about, So yeah, go get tattooed. Ask questions and there are a lot of people who like are self-taught. I really think that there's a benefit to having a mentor. I know it's hard to find and, there are like not great situations, but I really think that it like accelerates it a little bit. You can borrow knowledge from someone else. You learn, you take their mistakes, the knowledge from their mistakes instead of you making them, I feel like it's really important because I've ran into a lot of people who started tattooing during COVID or after, like started at home and like maybe went right into private studios. I feel like it's really important to go work at a storefront or at least like guest spot, like get to meet people outside of just who's in like these private studios, meet people who've been doing it for longer, who have different styles, like really like get to know. There's so many tattoo artists in New York and I see so many people like boxing themselves in. It's like, no, like,
tip into the community.
Yeah.
Have you gone on any like tours? Like I know like a lot of times tattoo artists will like go to different studios around the world, around the country. Have you done anything like that yet?
No, I'm a mom too. So my like traveling schedule is pretty much set around his school schedule. I did get to go to Chicago in March, which was really fun. The cutest studio, Crispy Aura, if anyone listening is
shout out,
Chicago based. And I definitely have plans to do more guest spot this year, but
yeah.
Any
specific locations you're thinking about?
I definitely want to go back to LA.
Okay.
I found a couple cool studios in San Juan in Puerto Rico. I have family there, so like I've tried to go like once a year at least, but I would love to go for just like 2 weeks and like go to the beach and then go tattoo.
And like, make a little money while you're there. Yeah. And I think like something just as a consumer of tattoos that like, people follow you on Instagram from all over the world. It's not just going to be in New York. Because if you post hot tattoos, like if someone likes your style, if you have such a unique style that it's like people will come out of their way to get that specific type of tattoo. I think of this one artist that I follow who's based out of Canada. And whenever they post their new tour dates and it's never New York, I'm always like, come to New York because I really want them to tattoo me. And they've only like gone to places that like I've never been. I think like something that's really cool about a tattoo tour is like you do have fans all over the place and people will book you. And then also new people will find you and then you'll go back a year later and then you'll have like 50 people to tattoo. So I think that's just such a cool thing that, you know, tattoo artists do get to do when you know, have that time. And
for sure. It's fun to like meet, you know, tattoo artists in other cities and get to just meet people from other cities, you know? Like in Chicago, most of my clients were like, oh, we're actually from New York or we're from Philly or whatever. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of like people, you know, like, I don't know, getting to know more of like how, you know, what's going on in this city, who am I, who are like, you know, just like the people who are interested in my work in this city, who's coming. I don't know. I love, it's already New York, so I get to meet people from all over, but like, you know, it's different everywhere you go. So
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
When you think of like tattoos just kind of as a craft, like are there any misconceptions or things to look out for as an early artist? Like when you're thinking about like the actual tangible, like doing the tattooing on someone, like is there any like rudimentary advice that you would give to someone who's just starting, like actually putting not pen to paper, but ink to skin?
Yeah. I feel like there's so many little things. If I was giving some advice, just like if it's like one piece, I guess, like maybe just don't go too deep.
Don't go too deep.
Because, you know, when you're first tattooing or like when you're first trying something out like that, I feel like a lot of people have the tendency, like, you know, you want the ink to be in the skin, but like it can only go in so much before it starts spreading everywhere. And since I started, I'm always like, I'd rather like have you come back and me touch it up than for it to blow out and just be a mess.
I don't understand how you've done that though, because literally you are so gentle. And you would think
it
that
was my fear that stuff.
I mean, I get that. I mean, I would have thought that I would have needed to come back just based on how I like literally didn't feel the needle. And like the fact that it's like my most like gorgeously filled in tattoo. It's just like, there's something that you're holding on to that I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. Oh, well, as far as like fine line, like, I don't know, with tattooing, just like illustration or anything like that, it's muscle memory. You need to like be in constant practice with it. Fine line, not everyone's gonna like it, you know, not everyone's gonna enjoy tattooing it. Like with that, I don't know. Like I am like petrified to give someone a bad tattoo. So
fair.
I really like care a lot about it when I'm doing it. So
is there anything that you won't do? Like, well, I guess, I mean, I've like very much done stuff in your style and like given you a concept. Like, do you ever, you know, not do things that are like something that's not like your style, or are there any like limbs that you won't tattoo or styles or anything like that? So
I like don't have anything specific. If it's like a style that I know I can't execute, then I'm not gonna, I would rather recommend you. I have so many tattoo artist friends, all who are amazing and do so many different styles. Like I'm going to recommend you to someone versus like taking on something I know I can't do.
Mm-hmm. If, like, I know that the one studio, not the one with Mira, the other one you said, like, there's going to be a lot of
Coming
walk-ins.
Up Roses, yeah.
So, like, what is that typically like? Like, do people come in and say, like, pick something from your flash, or are people coming in with a certain vision and like?
It's like a mix of both, for sure. I have like a special flash sheet that I offer just when I'm there. But, you know, you do have a lot of walk-ins and it ranges. Usually it's something small. Like a walk-in tattoo isn't typically going to be like a gigantic piece. It's like spontaneous little tattoo or like a smaller piece. But anything that's like on the larger like side or like more detailed, like that's going to be something I want time to draw for, you know,
right.
Like go over the concept, like not rush it.
Right. Are there any limbs that like you feel, because I know like people have said things about ribs and like whatever, like is there anything that you won't tattoo on?
No, not, there's like no rule. I mean, maybe like places like the bottom of your foot or like your palm, just because that is already a pretty difficult like area to tattoo and it doesn't stay well.
But palm tattoos are so sexy.
They're so hot. Yeah. But I mean, don't get me wrong. There are artists. There's like one artist, I think his name is Luke Ashley. It's like all he does is palm tattoos and they're perfect. But it's because that's all he does. Not that he's not capable. I think he, you know, he has done other stuff, but he's become like the palm tattoo guy, you know? Yeah. I have one here.
Oh my God. I love it. I think they're so iconic. I've been thinking about this so much.
Prepare for pain, because it's not even like how painful it is. It's just like all those nerves being there. And like, for me, it's the only tattoo I ever got that made me feel nauseous.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, this
that's
is
good to
too
know.
weird.
I mean, the fingers were definitely a little bit spicier than I anticipated. I thought like the fingers would be really resilient, but they were like, I mean, they were fine. They're quick, but they're definitely like even just that. I feel
Well,
like
it's
that
because
makes
it's
sense.
like right on bone, so there's no
yeah.
cushion, there's no like protection or not protection. I should say like there's no like padding there, you know.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. How many tattoos have you done on yourself?
Not very many.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're
I
just
know
doing it
most
on your
tattoo
friends?
artists like tattoo themselves, but I have had access to like
You've just
really
got so
good
many
tattoo
tattoos already.
artists. Yeah. I have like a little one here and then these little dots, like really minor stuff.
I mean, I love it.
I'd rather get work from like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm trying to cover my arms in your work. So we've got a lot
Girl,
of
I got
canvas. I guess that's tough if you get into tattooing and like later in life when you've already had a million tattoos done. It's like, oh, there's no canvas for me to like practice on myself on.
Yeah. I mean, well, at this point, I'm like, I don't need to like practice
You don't
on
know.
myself. Yeah. I mean, if I'm trying out like a new technique or like something like that. But even then I'm like, I want like, it's like a mental thing for sure. But when I'm doing it to myself, because it's uncomfortable, getting a tattoo is uncomfortable. And because I know I'm in control of that, I'm like, okay, I'd rather just stop this, you know? But when someone else is tattooing me, I'm like, no, I have to sit so fucking still for them, like be like the perfect client, you know? But when I'm doing it myself, I'm like, no, this is too painful.
I keep seeing these like TikToks of like when a woman gets a tattoo and they're like reading a book, like answering emails, whatever. And then it's like when a man gets a tattoo and they're like the whole time.
I gotta say though, that's like usually like cis straight guys.
I mean, our pain tolerance is meant for having children.
Yes. Oh my God. Just like being a woman.
Yeah, being a woman.
Being
So
ASAP,
like you can just get tattoos. If you've ever been afraid of getting a tattoo because you're like, it hurts. If you're already a woman, like you're halfway there. Like
yeah, seriously, like we deal with so much worse. Like I promise you, you'll get through it. Like you'll be fine.
Yeah. Have you heard of the like post-tattoo flu? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
So I saw this thing about like when you get a tattoo, sometimes you can get sick because like the wound is open or something like that. And like,
that sounds crazy.
I heard this lore. I'm not sure if it's a real thing.
I mean, I did read like for your first tattoo, apparently, there is a slight like weakening of your immune system. It shouldn't be crazy enough to get you. Like, I feel like the flu is like viral, no? Like, I don't know if maybe it's just like the feeling after, because, you know, depending on the tattoo you get, placement, size, all that stuff, it's like exhausting. You know, you can feel so like just wiped out afterwards.
Yeah.
I've seen people faint after getting a tattoo, you know, so sometimes you just don't know how it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
So I believe it. Like if someone feels like they got sick after or like but I've never heard of the post-tattoo flu. That sounds
I mean,
trippy.
I feel like the reason I'm remembering the name is because it like rhymes like the tattoo flu, but I don't know if it's like actually the flu or if it's just like, you know, whatever. But I mean, I feel like second skin has been like such a game changer, like going from cellophane to second skin. Like I'm just so bad at like, you know, just being able to let it heal under something.
I was going to say, did you ever like heal it like the traditional way without like second skin?
Sure I've had many tattoos that like before. I feel like second skin kind of became popular in the past few years, or maybe not, but
in like the past like maybe like 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah. I feel like my initial tattoos, I didn't use second skin, and there are a couple that I've gotten recently that they didn't. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I love it. I love it for myself personally when I get tattoos, because I never heal my stuff the way I tell my clients. I'm a lot more, you know, I don't know. I'm a little more careless, but
okay. Off the record.
But at this point I literally have, I mean, my arms are covered. I know how to heal a tattoo. I know how my body like responds to it. I like it. I know there's a lot of artists who are against using it. I think everyone should learn how to heal a tattoo without it, you know, because you see the stages that like the tattoo's going to go through, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas it's like a nice little, you know, bandage. You don't think about it for 3-4 days. You take it off and you're like, oh, it's time for lotion and cleaning.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least one tattoo just to see it, because like, I feel like you know, you should know what the actual stage is. Like it's a wound, you know, so it's gonna heal a certain way. It's like there's ink we're putting in. Sometimes like people get like freaked out with, you know, the bandages too, because it'll
Because it
fill
gets
up,
like
yeah,
gooey.
or like when it dries out and then they think like the tattoo's blown out because the lines look blurry or things like that. So it's like, no, like if you didn't have that, like it wouldn't look like that. It's just this bandage holding it all in. But I love it. I think it makes life a lot easier, unless you're allergic to it, and then like just
in which case, yeah, probably not the best idea. Do you have feelings on numbing cream?
Yes, I mean, I've had clients who have used numbing cream in the past. You know, they always tell me first. And there was one client like a long time ago when I did my first sternum tattoo. I bought numbing cream for her because I was like, you know, this is a pretty painful spot. I think you just have to be really careful and be direct with your artist. Like, don't try to hide the fact that you're using numbing cream. And, you know, do some research when you are buying these numbing creams, because some of them are getting recalled for like too much lidocaine. People are having like it's making them sick. It's like 10% or it's just something crazy. And like there's so many different brands, like it's hard to know which one. So like do research for sure if you're going to use it. And if it's a smaller piece, you really don't need it. Like, I feel like the harder you try to fight against the pain, the more painful it is. So when you accept it mentally, like it becomes a part of the experience. It's not as like intense.
For you as an artist, like what is the difference? Like, what do you feel once?
I haven't used it enough, but I know that there are artists who talk about like a change in texture of the skin, or like it not healing as solid.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Not healing as solid.
I didn't have that experience. I've only used it.
I mean, because
like,
you're just an icon.
No, my girl's like really like the first one with the sternum, it healed perfectly. And another client I had, she put it on before she got to the studio. She told me when she got there. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to make you go home now or anything like that, but like, let's go. And like, she sent me healed pics. It looked amazing. I just don't think that's like a guarantee across the board. So like, definitely like use at your own risk.
Right. Use at your own risk. And I mean, I think it also doesn't even last throughout the entire session.
It doesn't. Yeah. Like, it's a lot more effective, in my opinion, to start off without it and then use Bactine throughout it. You know, ask your artist if they use Bactine, or if there's like, if you're okay with lidocaine, if your body's okay with lidocaine, like a lidocaine spray, which Bactine technically is, but there's ones that have just like a higher concentration. You don't want to go too high, like that 10% I was talking that like got pulled, but that like takes the edge off when you're tattooing, you know, like when you're getting tattooed.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
If you were to tell someone they've never gotten a tattoo before, they're scared of the pain, is there a certain like limb or body part that you're like, this is going to be like the most chill spot? A good beginner
chill spot, like arms and legs are always so easy. Obviously, like the meatier parts, like anything by the bone is going to be annoying. I can't tell anyone to do, you know, anything, but I do recommend like, don't go straight for your hands. Don't go for your neck. Don't go for your face. Like, don't do something so visible for your first tattoo, because like you want to sit in it, you know, you want to see how you even feel with the tattoo. Some people get like, you know, big tattoos for the first one. And like, even me, when I got this one, I didn't really have anything else on my arm. And it wasn't like regret after I got it, but it was like an adjustment.
Right.
Because now I had this huge piece on my arm and I was like, okay, like getting used to this is how I look now kind of thing. I don't know. Like
No, I get it. Have you ever been like getting a tattoo and mid-tattoo, you're like, oh, I'm not into this concept?
No.
Okay. That would be scary. I'm like, I don't even know what I would do. I feel like that's why it's just so important to, you know, even if you print out the thing so many times, to like place it on your body. Like this one here, I think I tried it on like 7 different areas before I picked this. And I love this spot. I'm obsessed with it. That placement's
so perfect.
They complimented your work.
Did they?
Yeah. They're actually someone in LA. Their work is really gorgeous as well. So, you know, that's high praise.
That is literally perfection. Like, all those symbols look exactly like
all of my tattoos are like inward facing. I'm like ready for, well, I guess aside from my lover boy moose, that's gotta wear my baby's heart on my sleeve. But well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on the pod. This is super interesting just to kind of hear about your career trajectory, but also just like kind of all this like general information that I think sometimes people are like scared to ask about tattoos. just reflecting back on your career and like getting started, if someone said to you like, hey, I want to get started in tattooing tomorrow, like what would be like the one thing that you would say, like, this is what all you need to do to get started. Like, this is the first thing that you need to think about.
Draw. Literally,
Period.
Start like working on your portfolio. Experiment, like it's always great, like to have like a body of your work to show, to show potential. Like, if you want to be a tattoo artist, you're going to start posting, right? You're going to, I don't know. You definitely share everything. I feel like people love to see like the start of like a journey, but draw.
I mean, I see so many artists that have pages of just like Flash before they even became a tattoo artist. And I mean,
it gives you a sense of like their style, and like, I don't want to say really who they are, but like, a little bit of that. We do put ourselves into our work. So yeah, no, show the people what you got. Like and if you don't know how to draw, like you can learn how to draw. You just it's muscle memory. You have to do it every day, And
it's all about style too. Like people
experiment. Like in tattooing, when you first apprentice, especially in traditional like apprenticeships, like you would literally trace old school traditional Flash. And you're not necessarily like tattooing that, but it's just to get into the practice of it,
Mm-hmm. Do you, one more question before we wrap up. Do you have a feeling about like the practicing on like the pig skin versus like the fake skin or whatever of like?
Oh yeah. Like I've never done pig skin. I hear that that's like the closest to actually tattooing a person, but fake skin is obviously a lot more accessible and easier to set up in your house. My mentor was not really a big fan of the fake skin, and I have used it in the past, but because it's so tough, it's great to like work on holding the machine, work on pulling a line, work on seeing like the voltage and like how fast it's running and all that. Shading techniques, but you're going to be doing it so much harder on that because it's silicone, it's plastic,
Right.
So when you go to tattoo real skin, you really have to have like a much lighter hand.
Right. I asked that question as someone who does not really like to be near dead animals. So
yeah, no, I can't imagine going to the butcher and you're like, let me get
a piece of pig skin. It's like step 1 is draw, and step 2, go to the butcher and get a piece of pig skin.
Yeah, really.
Well, I love it. Well, before we wrap, anything you want to promote of your upcoming residencies?
I'm going to be starting at 2 different studios starting in June. Mondays and Tuesdays on the Lower East Side at Coming Up Roses, and then Fridays and Saturdays in Tribeca with Curl, New York.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Slay.